Who are the top sleepers for Week 20? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Friday, August 2nd. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and the big news from Thursday, Kobe Mayo promoted by the Orioles. If you want to hear more about that, you can listen to our full-length podcast, but we do need to focus on our Week 20 preview for this, and we will start with two-star pitcher. Scott, will you start Robbie Ray next week at the Nationals and home against the Tigers?
I stopped short of calling Robbie Ray a must start, but those are pretty good matchups, and yeah, I think in most circumstances I would.
Cristopher Sanchez is coming off a rough start against the Yankees, and next week, 2 tough matchups at the Dodgers at the D-backs.
Yeah, I think he's the caliber of pitcher you pretty much always start with 2 starts. I wish the matchups were better, but you're probably going to play him. I could see a scenario maybe in a roto league if you're protecting ratios. That's like the categories where you can't afford to lose ground. Maybe you sit him, but in most cases, certainly in points leagues, you're going to start Sanchez.
Max Scherzer has left some of his starts recently with arm fatigue, and next week, tough matchups home against the Astros at the Yankees.
Yeah, it's probably the same as Cristopher Sanchez for me. I mean, 2 turns he was dominant. 2 turns ago, I'm sorry, he was dominant, and I think I'd probably start Scherzer.
What about Nick Lodolo, who's coming off his worst start of the season? Pretty good matchups, though, at the Marlins and at the Brewers.
He hasn't looked right. His curveball hasn't looked right since he came back from injury, dating back to May now, actually. But he's been okay for the most part during that stretch, and with one of those matchups being the Marlins, I think I'd probably play Lodolo.
Okay. Chris Bassett gets the Orioles and the Oakland A's. He has struggled recently.
Yeah, there's not a lot there that I find redeeming. Points league only.
And Luis Severino gets the Jekyll and Hyde matchups in Coors Field against the Rockies, but also at the Mariners.
I'd rather not. If you really want that extra start in a points league, you could do worse than Severino, but I'd rather not.
Who are the 2-star pitchers that you are looking to add and stream in Week 20?
Okay, I don't love the 2-start options as much as the 1-start options this week, but there is Sean Manaea coming off one of the best starts of his life. Don't know why it happened, but two good matchups this upcoming week, Cardinals and Mariners. JP Sears coming off a really strong July when most pitchers around the league were struggling, and 2 really good matchups, White Sox, Blue Jays for JP Sears. Further down the list here, we have Jeffrey Springs. Didn't look great in his return from Tommy John surgery last time, but in points leagues with 2 matchups, one of them being the Cardinals, I could see rolling the dice on Jeffrey Springs. Colin Ray, still waiting for him to fall apart. Hasn't happened yet. Braves, Reds, pretty good matchups.
What about those single-start streamers, which you mentioned you do like quite a bit?
Yeah, Hayden Birdsong against the Tigers is my favorite. Spencer Schwellenbach barely makes the cut here, almost to roster dimension, but not yet. So we're going to take advantage of that and call him out one more time, especially, the Brewers matchup isn't so great, but yeah, I trust Schwellenbach in spite of that. Andrew Abbott at the Marlins. They've always been terrible. They're even more terrible now offensively. Jose Quintana at the Mariners, another bad offensive team. Michael Wacha against the Cardinals. Pretty good matchup, and he's been so reliable lately. River Ryan against the Pirates. I think there's a lot of upside there.
Let's slide over to the hitters and the best matchups for next week. The Giants, Reds, Padres, Mets, and Braves. The worst hitter matchups, Tigers, Cubs, Rangers, Pirates, and the Rays. Who are your top sleeper hitters for Week 20?
All right, we got Colton Cowser. He's been very hot lately. Only one lefty on the schedule for the Orioles, so I expect he'll remain in the lineup. Michael Toglia has been crushing it since coming back from the minors at the start of June, I believe it was. And great power numbers, full week of home games for the Rockies. It hasn't mattered where he's played, Toglia, home or away, but of course, Coors Field is a better place for anyone to hit. Let's see who else we have here. We have Mark Vientos, who I'm surprised still qualifies for this list. The Mets have the 4th best matchups, as you said. Jorge Soler, the Braves' new leadoff hitter. They have the 5th best matchups, including 3 games at Coors Field. TJ Friedl healthy again for the Reds. They have the second best matchups. They are on the road, which doesn't work to Friedel's benefit, but the matchups are so good. The pitchers are so weak. I still think he belongs here. A couple Marlins have just been hot lately, and their matchups are not prohibitive. 7 games at least. You got Xavier Edwards and Jake Berger. J.D. Martinez, another Met you can hope will take advantage of those fourth best hitter matchups. J.J. Bleday, no lefties on the schedule for the A's. And their matchups are pretty good. White Sox and Blue Jays rotations. Brendan Rodgers, one of the Rockies you can trust to take advantage of Coors Field. He's been one of their best hitters there. Full week there, as I already mentioned.
All right, we are going to wrap there. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.